Okay. So, a little bit more about me. I am a 4-H specialist. I grew up in South Central Missouri. I attended the University of Missouri. And when I started working for the University of Missouri Extension as a 4-H specialist, it was particularly um, important to me to make sure that our programs were things that were accessible to youth with disabilities and volunteers with disabilities, because I have an older brother that's a quadriplegic, and having grown up with him in my household, it was just really important for me to make sure that those opportunities were available to all the kids and not just those who met particular criteria. And so it was very important to me to make sure that I was making those programs accessible. And so when I joined this whole 4-H adventure, I went to my supervisor and I was talking about making accommodations. And my supervisor said something to me that was really aggravating at first. And it was this: I don't want 4-H to be making accommodations. And it kind of took me aback. I'm like, what? And the follow-up to that was, I want to make programs that are already accommodating so that we don't have to make accommodations. And that really hit me. And that's when I really got into this whole thing of studying universal design, because we do want our programs to automatically be accommodating to the youth that we're serving. And as I have went down this journey and started working in collaboration with AgrAbility, and as part of AgrAbility, it has been a really neat experience to be able to put together those programs and kind of mesh these ideas and make those programs to where they are serving both youth and adults who have some level of disability. So as we go along here, I'm wanting to make sure I don't have anything else in the chat that I need to see. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you to use your the emojis and tell me, when do you think is the best time to start taking care of plants? When they look like this or this? If you think that it is best to start taking care of them as seeds, give me a thumbs up. If you think it is best to start taking care of them once they are a full-grown plant, then I want you to put a heart. Yes, I see all the thumbs up. Yes, obviously, it is going to be best if we start taking care of our plants as soon as we are putting them into the soil, correct? Like, we know that if we aren't taking care of them from the time that they are seeds, that we're going to end up with, at very least, an unhealthy plant if we get a plant much out of that at all. So if I can make my presentation move to the next slide, that would be great. Hopefully, are you able to still see my presentation?
Now yep, it moved
Excellent.
to the next slide. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, excellent. I just wanted to make sure, because my screen kind of flickered there a little bit. I wanted to make sure it was still doing what it was supposed to. All right, so why is this important? Why do we start with those youth? So when we talk about building the next generation of an agricultural workforce, it really is essential to make sure that we're developing those habits of health and safety and well-being from an early age. And the reason is we know that there's that old cliche about it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and it's true. It's not impossible, but we do know that developmentally, when we have a younger person, they are going to adopt those habits a lot easier. And then that also helps us build a good, solid foundation for us to be able to work on for a lifetime. And so as we consider how 4-H and AgrAbility can work cohesively, this is kind of the framework. If we start making them aware and providing them with education on health and safety and well-being at an early age, and inclusivity, and fostering that mindset from the time that we grab them as clover kids or clover buds, and all the way throughout their 4-H journey, when they graduate high school and are ready to enter the workforce, they already have some skills there to be able to serve them as they go into the workforce. So what we have been really trying to do collectively in the state of Missouri between AgrAbility and 4-H is to try to encourage our volunteers to focus on developing those good safety practices. It is not out of the ordinary for us to have farmers who are adult human beings who are doing silly nonsense type of things, even in front of our 4-H members. And so, if we, in extension, can provide that education both to our volunteers and to our kids that are in the program, we can maybe try to create a culture of safe practices, good coping skills, and build off of that. So, we really want to make sure that, again, we're going at this from two directions. We want to get those volunteers providing good education and setting a good example. We want them to be modeling those skills for our kiddos as they go along. And we also know that we need to be teaching those kids because sometimes they become the teachers to those older folks. That's kind of how 4-H began. If you're not familiar, let me enlighten you. If you are familiar, let me remind you that the whole way that 4-H became an organization was because we needed for our farmers to be implementing newer, more research-based farming practices, and the old farmers just continued to do the same things over and over and over. And so we started teaching youth through 4-H about these new farming techniques. And through that, we were able to see that generational change. We also saw some of our older folks learning from their kids and implementing some of those practices. That doesn't just apply to research-based farming techniques. It also applies to research and evidence-based health and safety and well-being practices. And so if we can get them young and teach both directions, our volunteers and our youth, we are going to see better outcomes. And we have definitely seen that in the state of Missouri. All right, so 4-H is a force multiplier for Missouri AgrAbility. So this collaboration has been a win-win. 4-H benefits from it. AgrAbility has also benefited from it. So again, we're reinforcing those early safety and injury prevention behaviors. We have talked heavily about brain injury prevention explicitly. That kind of became a curriculum that I developed and presented on at AgrAbility a couple years ago. And there's always a story behind everything. In the county that I am housed in South Central Missouri, we had a number of teens that were in farming accidents, particularly in automotive or UTV related accidents on the farm, that had either sustained brain injuries or died due to a brain injury. And we had 4-H members who had sustained brain injuries. And so it was very important to me, again, to try to get ahead of that, to take some proactive approaches. It may seem reactive, and in a lot of ways it was because of these things that happened. We saw the need, but we also want to try to prevent those types of things from happening to other kids. So we developed the 4-H Save Your Brain program, which we will be talking about here in just a moment. I worked closely with my Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is supposed to be co-presenting with me today and unfortunately was not able to make it. But Dr. Karen Funkenbush has been instrumental in providing a lot of guidance and direction on developing that curriculum and reworking it over time as we took that from a pilot program into a full state initiative. And we continue to grow that program. And it's something that has been very, very powerful in just getting kids to think about it. And while we know that teenagers are impulsive and we're probably never going to get to a place where we see zero brain injuries or zero farming accidents among teenagers, anytime that we can put that information out there and get them thinking about it and provide them with some safer strategies for being on the farm, working around livestock, buckling up when they're in a car, driving safely when you're using an ATV or UTV, ATV or UTV. Those practices are things that, again, are just really powerful because when we start sharing those stories, when we start sharing safety practices, the teens do pay attention, and it's profoundly um, impactful when we have folks who have lived through farming accidents who tell those stories to youth. And so that has been something that I have really strived to do in the state of Missouri, is to intentionally recruit volunteers who have lived experiences in sustaining some type of farming injury so that we can pull them in. It's very beneficial to them to be able to serve those youth, but it's also really beneficial to those youth to be able to hear those authentic stories. Sometimes I think that when I deliver programs or when other adults deliver programs on farm safety, it kind of goes one out in one ear and out the other. Because again, teens particularly, they hear so much, and scare tactics they've become numb to it. But when they hear these authentic stories and they see these people who have these lived experiences, it makes a difference. And we have really seen that in a lot of the surveys that we've done and the work that we have done with these youth, to have mentors and people who have these lived experiences and share those experiences with them. So again, it benefits both sides. It's a win-win for AgrAbility and 4-H for us to be collaborating. It has also been really good to develop some good skills across our 4-H membership to see how these things are being implemented. We have had our Heroes to Hives program be mentors for 4-H and teach a lot of those skill sets. We have just been able to really connect those youth with those folks that are receiving AgrAbility benefits. And again, it's a great partnership because we're getting out ahead of some of the potential challenges that youth might face if they are in a farming accident, and coupling them with a farmer who is able to provide them that skill set, the authentic life experiences, and just share with them and mentor them. And so it's been a really valuable collaboration both ways. So moving on here, why work with 4-H? So as we think about this, I would like for you again to just use that chat feature and tell me one word that you think of when you think of 4-H. One word, just drop it into the chat. When you think of 4-H, what do you think of? So I saw a lot of comments, though, that said youth. That kind of is the first thing that we think of is those kiddos, right? When I think of 4-H as a 4-H professional, I think a little differently just because of the role that I am in. And I think about both the youth, of course, but also my focus is always on volunteers because I am always looking for and trying to train volunteers who are able to provide quality education and mentorship and a good 4-H experience for those members. So my focus is always on the volunteers rather than the youth. Not that I am not thinking about the youth. My purpose in doing all of this is for the sake of building up those kiddos, but my primary goal is always to find good volunteers. 4-H is an excellent way for us to collaborate because we have rural relationships all over the country and all over the place. We have kids, we have deep relationships with the communities that we serve. And we really focus hard on experiential hands-on learning. So this is a really great opportunity for us to collaborate because we can take and actually get our hands dirty. In a lot of our educational settings, we are virtual. I know in the state of Missouri, we have a very limited human capital within Extension. Being able to take our volunteers, take our Extension field faculty throughout the state of Missouri and leverage that to be able to make AgrAbility greater is an opportunity that we might not have otherwise. So being able to leverage those volunteers, train them, get them out in the field all over the state, we're able to expand that human capital and make a greater impact and a wider spread impact throughout the state. So that being said, we are looking at a way, for frameworks where we can be very efficient in what we do, deliver that critical prevention and inclusion education. It builds the skills for our kids. It builds their confidence. It provides them with all the things that we're looking for in 4-H. So when we think of positive youth development, bringing AgrAbility into the picture provides us again with all of those things that we need: the skill building, the mentorship, the experiential learning, all of those things. So again, we're looking at a win-win in how we deliver this, because our volunteers, who are much of the time also AgrAbility clients, are also benefiting from becoming 4-H volunteers and being able to provide that mentorship to the next generation. It's a very efficient way to prevent injuries. It's a very good way for us to be able to provide that inclusion education in ways that are very natural and not forced. It just puts us into a position to where we can foster those relationships in a way that is not feeling like we have to make this happen right now. It happens organically over time. And so it's been a very beneficial thing just to put those kids together with some of those farmers that are able to provide those good life skills. And again, the life experiences that they have are really beneficial to those 4-H members. I can get my next slide up here. All right, so I want to go back to that concept of planning for differences from the start, that universal design. So when I talked about not making accommodations, obviously there are going to be times when we need to make accommodations, but our goal is to build programs that are universally designed. So if you think about a ramp into a building, having a handicap accessible building, that is something that is absolutely necessary for someone who is in a wheelchair. However, that is something that's really beneficial to a lot of people. It's beneficial to those moms that are trying to push a stroller in to be with their kids at a 4-H meeting. It's beneficial to the folks who have a little bit of arthritis and stairs are just hard for them. It's not that it's impossible for those folks, but it's absolutely necessary for some. But what is absolutely necessary for some is actually a good design choice for this programming for everybody. And when we start looking at a lot of those things that we have historically called accommodations, a lot of times they are things that, while necessary for some folks, are really just good program design anyway. So when we are thinking about abilities as a spectrum, we're all going to fall on that spectrum somewhere. And so sometimes having things that are accommodations are really beneficial for everybody. So when you start designing these programs, rather than building a program and then making accommodations to accommodate for those who have to have accommodations, just build those things naturally in. So when I'm looking for a venue for an event, I'm not going to think about whether or not I'm going to have kids that need a wheelchair accessible building. I'm just going to automatically assume that I am going to need that. because again, it's going to be beneficial for a lot of folks to have a handicap accessible environment. Same thing with things like, um, having adequate room, things like good lighting, things like having large print, and good contrast on your slides, in a presentation. Those types of things aren't just beneficial, or just necessary to some, they're beneficial to everybody. So if we get into the habit of just building these things into our programs, makes for a more welcoming environment for everyone. And so, as I have worked with AgrAbility, I have made better, stronger 4-H programs from the get-go. So when we talk about the seeds and the plant, we're not waiting until there's a challenge in front of us before we start deliberately putting those accommodations into place. So we just assume that we need them. We just automatically put those in place because they're beneficial. And as we have started doing that and making for those programs to be more accommodating, it just makes for a stronger program altogether. So um, next up, I'm going to talk about the three primary programs that we have collaborated on, that have been intentionally designed with the idea of merging AgrAbility and 4-H together. And the first was the 4-H Save Your Brain program. And again, this developed because we saw a particular need. And this is something that I presented on a couple years ago at the AgrAbility National Training Workshop. And there's a curriculum that is free and available. I will try to make sure that we get that put into the chat, the link for that at some point during this presentation. It is free. It is available throughout the country. You can download it, print it, use it. It has 6 modules that focus on brain injury prevention, and with the last one being about inclusivity and how we can foster inclusivity in our 4-H programs and just among youth in general. Getting them used to the idea that you can just have authentic conversations, that human beings are human beings regardless of their ability. And so that has been really fun to watch those kiddos participate in those things, because I have seen survey results that went from I had absolute no interest in going up to someone and having an awkward conversation because they had a disability and I didn't want to ask them about it, to I will absolutely go up and ask them about it and have an authentic conversation because I don't feel scared of that and I don't feel like it's awkward anymore. And I want to be inclusive of those folks who are different and have different abilities. And if there's something that I see that is different, it doesn't make it bad. And so seeing that from our 4-H Save Your Brain ambassadors and our teens that they have went and talked to, they've done service projects. So in this program, our structure is that we do these modules with a select group of teenagers, usually in 4-H or FFA classrooms. And then those become our ambassadors. We train them intensively so that they are then able to take those same modules and teach to other teenagers, junior high kids, even elementary kids in some cases. And it has been really interesting just to see the way that they have developed in their way of thinking. So I love it. I love being able to see how they are interacting. So it's really amazing. The next one is we kind of switched gears and we wanted to make sure that we were talking about mental health as well. And we wanted to put out the disclaimer very quickly and very early on that we are not therapists, that we're not trying to provide counseling. And we developed a program that was kind of silly because we wanted it to be something that was palatable and easy to digest for those young minds. And so we developed Rodeo Clown College. Although we've tried to kind of pull back from the rodeo piece, we wanted the rodeo piece because it made it sound more rural, but because of insurance not liking the whole rodeo thing, we've kind of pulled back from using the term rodeo and just focused on clown college. But again, we have 6 modules that talk about coping skills and that whole mind and body connection. So we do things like we have balloons and we fill them up until they pop, and talk about, if you're not using good coping skills and using taking time to let off some of that, you're going to end up popping. And so we do balloon animals, and we do juggling and talking about multitasking and how sometimes it feels like you can't keep all the bags going. And so we try very much to lean into that metaphor. It also makes it silly and fun, because mental health is a heavy conversation to have with kiddos. It's not an easy conversation, but it is so absolutely imperative, because we know that farming is not an easy occupation. When we have these rural kiddos that are often socially isolated because of geography, as well as all of the stress because their family is involved in the agricultural industry, we know that we need to provide them some extra support and learning how to advocate for their own mental well-being and provide them with some good strategies for just basic mental health. It's not about treating mental illness, it's about promoting that well-being. And so we try to very much make sure that we put that disclaimer out there early on, but we really want to make sure that they have a good toolkit for being able to advocate for themselves. And again, this is one of those things where there's so much stigma in rural areas regarding mental health. And so this has been a way for us to kind of slide in this topic for the adults involved too, because they don't always like talking about mental well-being, and it's something that's scary for them because of that stigma. And so if we can put that information in the hands of the kids, sometimes they're sharing those coping skills, they're sharing those things and skills that they have learned with those parents and adults in their life, and that makes a difference for them too. So again, it's an excellent partnership for us to be able to collaborate with AgrAbility and 4-H, putting those two together to be able to provide that intergenerational connection, and provide a skill set that is serving both youth and adults. Next up is Imagine Together. This is a livestock show that we have started doing, and we actually have a number of folks who have physical and intellectual disabilities that we pull into the arena, and we have our youth go through training, and we get them prepared for the livestock show, and then they teach these folks with the intellectual disabilities how to show. And they are adults that maybe were not afforded the opportunities to participate in livestock shows when they were younger. And they show along side by side in the arena with those kids. And it's a really great opportunity for our youth to learn through teaching. We know that the research shows that if you can teach it, you're more likely to retain that information than you are if you're just able to learn it yourself. So being able to put those youth out there to teach their skills in the arena to other folks is really inspiring, but it's also again a really great opportunity for us to reinforce the concept of inclusion and just really foster a good environment where those skills and life experiences are being exchanged. And then also, again, they're having to demonstrate the safety pieces of livestock handling. And so when we finish this program, we have 4-H youth who have demonstrated skills and who have been involved in fostering this inclusivity. On the flip side, we have had engagement with these adults who have an intellectual disability or in some cases a physical disability, who have learned skills, who have learned safe livestock handling, and who are then able to be around livestock without um, feeling as at risk of becoming injured because of their involvement with agriculture. So then they have developed some skills too. So it's again a great win-win. This program has been very, very popular and just continues to grow. And it's been a really fun one to do. So I highly recommend it. So just to kind of recap the programs that we have done in the state of Missouri while we continue to grow and continue to add to this list. The 4-H Save Your Brain program, it's all about prevention, particularly of brain injuries. We also do some inclusive pieces with that. And while it is kind of tailored to brain injury, and we specifically talk about brain injury, there is a lot of other farm injury related kind of topics that go into that. Again, I have a brother that's a quadriplegic who has actually volunteered and done this program before. And so he goes in and talks to these kids about safe farm practices and shares his own life experiences. So, again, a really great program. The 4-H Rodeo Clown College, it's our mental well-being program. It really has been great for destigmatizing, and then of course the Imagine Together. And so that's our livestock show. And all of these, we try to get teens to become teachers, and we also leverage our disabled farmers and adults who have some sort of injury or illness or life experience that they are able to share. And that it's just really phenomenal to see how these kids and adults come together. Just really neat to see their experiences. So that being said, moving forward, and right now there's still a lot underway. There's still a lot of unknowns. We're still trying to work through some of the kinks, but we do know that we are going to try to continue to do these programs that we've already done, but we're also starting to look at careers. And so in the state of Missouri, our kiddos are able to attend Missouri public schools until the age of 21 if they have not mastered graduation. And so we do have young people all the way up to 20 and 21 years of age who are still in the public school system. And we want to make sure that those kids are getting the skills that they need to be able to transfer to the workforce. We also want to make sure that any of those kiddos that have a 504 or IEP in the public school system are being served in career and college and career readiness, whether they choose to go to college or if they are wanting to go into the workforce. And we know that a lot of those kids will end up in some sort of agricultural placement. And so teaching them the skills, getting them involved in becoming a good advocate for themselves, and making sure that they're safe along the way is our goal. So as we continue to move forward, college and career readiness is kind of on our radar, although we don't know exactly what that looks like at this time. So we're excited to see where we go with that. That being said, do we have any questions? I would love to just have a good open discussion. If I can figure out what I'm doing here on the technology side of things.
Emily,
Feel free to unmute.
there was a resource shared in the chat by Nancy Bell from PNASH on child and youth farm safety. And then one question, Art had a question about no rodeo for insurance concerns.
Yeah, so while many states still do 4-H rodeo, Missouri has opted out. And so we're no longer able to do rodeo. That's been for several years now. And though we still are kind of doing it under the, like, we're not doing rodeo under the radar, but with this Rodeo Clown College, there's no actual time in an arena or anything along that lines. We're not dealing with livestock or anything. So For the purposes of insurance, I think that it would be fine, but we're trying to kind of pull back on the terminology a little bit. Any other questions? In that case, as we wrap up, if oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Mackenzie. As we wrap up, if there is anyone that has ideas on how they might implement some type of collaboration between AgrAbility and 4-H moving forward, if you would like to drop something in the chat, just a short phrase or something, or something that maybe you took away from today, that would be great if you can drop something in the chat there.
Right. And while people are doing that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I want to thank Emily for presenting today for all the wonderful information. Just a reminder, when you leave the webinar, there will be a few quick questions. Please answer those evaluation questions. They help us to continue to bring you great webinars like this. And then the recording will be, link to recording will be sent out to anyone who has registered.
Yes, thank you, Tess, and thank you everyone for joining in today. I hope that you were able to take something from it, and if you would like to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to provide my contact information and discuss more independently.